In Canada's interconnected freshwater systems, an ecological story of invasion unfolds. Along the southern boundary of the Great Lakes Basin, an invasive biological force gained a foothold decades ago. In the 1970s, Asian carp escaped containment in the southern United States, migrating north through the Mississippi watershed toward Canadian waters. In choked river stretches, these aggressive planktivores grew to account for over 70% of total fish biomass. The response was swift and expensive. Engineers deployed electrical dispersal barriers in shipping canals, resource managers applied pesticides, and governments committed over $1 billion to build permanent defensive infrastructure. Yet the invaders kept pushing forward. Then, an unexpected shift occurred. In upper stretches near critical choke points, carp populations began to collapse on their own. Field surveys revealed an answer that defied popular predictions. To understand why, one must look back to the 1970s. Aquaculture operators imported silver and bighead carp from East Asia to clean algae-choked ponds. Flooding allowed them to escape into river networks, establishing breeding populations throughout the Mississippi system and advancing toward the Great Lakes. Their reproductive capacity is staggering. A single female silver carp can release over 1 million eggs in a season. Swimming with open mouths, they strain microscopic plankton straight out of the water column, starving out resident species like the native gizzard shad, bigmouth buffalo, and the sportfish that depend on them. In dense stretches, surveys recorded over 1,200 carp per linear kilometer. Compounding the crisis, silver carp leap up to 3 meters when startled by boat motors, causing concussions and injuries to boaters. The stakes for Canada are enormous. The Great Lakes supply drinking water to 40 million people and support a multi-billion-dollar fishery. If carp establish themselves in the lakes proper, native trout, whitefish, and perch populations face devastation. This crisis led scientists to investigate whether a native apex predator, the alligator gar, could serve as a biological control. Reaching 2.5 meters and weighing over 130 kilograms, the gar is a living fossil with needle-sharp teeth and ganoid armor. However, human activity had nearly erased the species through overharvesting and dam construction, leading to captive breeding programs by the late 1990s. When gar reintroductions began, public imagination seized on the idea that this native giant would consume the invaders. Yet fisheries biologists quickly clarified that gar were never going to solve the carp crisis. Mortality was high, with only 1,500 stocking survivors spread across vast rivers. More importantly, carp rapidly outgrow the throat width of an alligator gar within months, gaining complete immunity from predation. Media outlets championed the ancient monster story, but the predator was simply incapable of clearing the river. The real collapse had nothing to do with the gar. It came down to two unexpected forces. The first was unglamorous commercial harvesting at scale. Authorities introduced bounties, paying commercial crews per kilogram of carp landed. Over 15 years, fishers extracted over 35 million kilograms from regional waterways. Crews utilized East Asian unified harvest methods, using sound boats to herd carp into massive net enclosures, and Judas fish tactics, fitting carp with radio transmitters to track and net whole schooling aggregations at the invasion front. Government agencies simultaneously rebranded the harvest as kopi to build domestic culinary markets. The second force was historical urban water quality. As carp migrated north, their advance stalled 80 kilometers short of Lake Michigan. Toxicological studies revealed that heavily contaminated industrial channels caused severe cellular stress and lethargy in carp. Decades of urban pollution built an invisible chemical barrier the fish refused to cross, while concrete seawalls eliminated spawning habitat. This containment pattern is mirrored across Western Canada, where invasive Prussian carp and common carp dominate prairie tributaries and BC salmonid habitats. Introduced via agricultural releases and bait buckets, Prussian carp utilize gynogenesis, asexual cloning using sperm from native species, to colonize new waters rapidly. Their bottom feeding uproots aquatic plants, causing severe turbidity and toxic algal blooms. Attempts to use native northern pike as biological controls failed for the same morphological reasons. Carp quickly grow too wide for slender pike to swallow. Instead, the true reduction across northern systems was driven by sustained commercial netting, Judas tracking, and northern winter limnology. Thick ice and snow cover eliminate oxygen in shallow backwaters, creating severe hypoxia and natural winter kills that wipe out massive carp cohorts. Furthermore, unpredictable spring freshets lower water temperatures, disrupting spawning windows. Today, permanent infrastructure at key lock locations, continuous commercial removal, eDNA water sampling, and native habitat restoration work together to hold the line. The invader was not stopped by a river monster, but by persistent human effort, industrial barriers, and the harsh realities of northern geography.